How are your dreams? Do you have a rich dream life? Yeah, dreams are interesting, aren't they? We wake up and we've got this little wobble in our sense of ourself. We can feel a sense of significance and a very different sense of dimensionality, time and space. And then that gets closed down. You know, we forget what happens in our dreams because we need associations to ground the memories. Memory is all about association of sensation. And since we don't have a context oftentimes for that, if we don't reinforce it when we're waking up, it drifts away. But if you are sensitized to that quality, you know, when you're waking up, there's something very profound there. We come back into this waking consciousness that is very, fixed, in this fixed notion of time and space, and a really fixed notion of ourselves. That loses something. We lose something with the filters that kind of fall into place, you know, as we wake up. So that's what I'd like to talk about today, is this quality of dream that is right in line with the quality of the Bardo. The Bardo is our theme for this year's Ango period. Some of you are here for the first time in a little bit. So just as a quick review, the Bardo is the Tibetan word, and it comes out of Tibetan Buddhism that refers formally to the time in between one lifetime and another lifetime. So body dies, and then something transitions into a realm that then is reincarnated into the next lifetime. And that time in between lifetimes is the Bardo. But we're looking at it as the Bardo of everyday life, because the teachings about the Bardo are pointing to a quality of our everyday life, which is precisely the awakened mind. Is the awakened mind. So when we really can experience ourselves as being in Bardo, as Bardo, we're able to manifest this awakened mind, which is free from clinging. And free from clinging means free from suffering. And that's the point, at least one of the main points of our Zen practice, is to free the suffering that we create for ourselves and for others through clinging. Yeah. So let's appreciate this Dharma of the Bardo. Book of Equanimity, Case 91, Nansen's Peony. In the preface to the assembly of this koan, if you know that awakening and dreaming are fundamentally nothing, you will finally believe that real and unreal transcend duality. Main case. Attention! Riko Taifu on one occasion asked Master Nansen, Dharma Master Joe is exceedingly wonderful. He said, heaven and earth and I have the same root. The 10,000 things and I are one body. This is very mysterious. Nansen, pointing to the peony in the garden, said, Taifu, people nowadays who see this one flower are like people in a dream. Can we call up our image of a peony? What a wonderful monastery Nansen's place must have been. And peonies blooming. Just look at this being. What a mysterious entity. Is it a flower? Is it a picture of a flower? Even those words become filters for our experience. This Master Gyodo was a 5th century Zen master. I guess wasn't technically a Zen master at that time, but probably a Taoist master or proto-Zen master. And of course, Master Nansen, who was Joshu's teacher, was about 250 years after Master Gyodo. So they're referring back to a master couple 3 centuries prior. But Master Gyodo had transmitted some very profound teachings, including this quote that Riko Taifu says. He says, "Heaven and earth and I have the same root. The 10,000 things and I are one body. This is very mysterious." This Master Gyodo, he's very interesting. He was famous in 5th century China, and the emperor actually asked him to marry his daughter, the emperor's daughter. So I don't know if that means he would become like a crown prince or something, or a prince or something. But Master Gyodo had no interest in leaving his monastery and his practice and becoming, a court person. So he refused, and the emperor sentenced him to death because he refused. And Master Gyodo said, "Okay, I'm not going to change my mind." But he did ask for a 7-day extension on his death sentence so that he could compose his final treatise, which he did. And this quote comes from that treatise. Also in this treatise, he has this image. He says, "This physical existence will come to extinction," our body, "but it's nothing. It has nothing to do with real life. It's just like the sword cutting the spring wind. One body, no body." Maizumi Roshi commented on this quote, saying, "Swinging the sword, what can be cut? No one can cut, nothing to be cut. It's wonderful." Imagine living life like that. No fear of one form passing. No fear of what other form may emerge, because it's all part of the same wind. So we make these distinctions: alive and dead, dreaming or awake, enlightenment or delusion. But it's not like that. These are not opposites. So can we truly appreciate our life as this bardo of formless form, of waking dream? Most of you probably know this famous Taoist story. One day around sunset, Chuangzi dozed off and dreamed that he was a butterfly. He flapped his wings, and sure enough, he was a butterfly. He completely forgot that he was Chuangzi. But then he realized that this butterfly was Chuangzi, who was dreaming. So it sounds to me like a lucid dream, right? He kind of woke up within the dream to himself dreaming. They were both happening. But then he asked himself, am I a butterfly who dreamed that I was Chuangzi? Was it Chuangzi or a butterfly? Or was it a butterfly dreaming he was Chuangzi, dreaming he was a butterfly? Lucid dreaming is being awake within the dream. Yeah? How many have had lucid dreaming experiences? Yeah, everybody. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can see online as well. But how often do we have that sense when we're awake, that we're dreaming while awake? Okay? If you do, now you're getting somewhere. Okay? Both. Everything seems to have a real existence. But when we look at it, we realize the truth of this line from the Diamond Sutra. This fleeting world is like a phantom, like a dream. But these dreams seem real. Feels real, looks real. And it is real, but not in the way we think it is. So we can't say everything is unreal either. I think if we look inside ourselves, we can see that there's kind of a clinging and a craving that creates the fixity of the reality. It kind of insists upon things being persistent, solid, and the way we understand them to be. There's a real deep inner drive to have it be that way. It's conditioned, but it's also conditioned by something inside which resists the mystery, resists the fluidity, resists the unpredictability, the openness of essential nature. Or can we get in touch with that level of ourselves, that clinging and cravingness within inside ourselves that is creating the so-called reality of reality? Maybe we have to seek the unreality of reality to really open ourselves up to those, more fluid dimensions, the more dream-like qualities of the world. Yeah, this is a great practice. It's really a fun, joyful, interesting practice. To defamiliarize yourself, defamiliarize your own understanding. We have these notions sometimes that we meditate to become perfectly clear about everything. Oh, here it is. In the Denko-roku, which is another book of koans about the enlightenment experiences of all the masters, Master Keizan, who was Dogen's Dharma grandson, he wrote a poem for every one of the enlightenment experiences, and in one of them he said, "Though clear waters range to the vast blue autumn sky, yet how can they compare to the hazy moon on a spring night? Most people want to have pure clarity, but sweep as you will, you cannot empty the mind." So this image of the hazy moon is a a real key image in our Zen literature. In fact, it's the name that Maezumi Roshi used for one of his collections, The Hazy Moon of Enlightenment. Padmasambhava, he's this famous 8th century Tibetan Buddhist sage, said, when there is no distinction between dream and the waking state, then perfect meditation is realized. It's really interesting. Yeah. I don't know about you, but I often had this notion of, the perfect meditation being like clear and awake and illuminated. And that is not a inaccurate, description. But having no distinction between dream and the waking state. So there's these qualities of dream states, that we don't experience so much, in our waking state normally. There's this, obviously, this kind of fluidity and transformation and lack of identity, all of these qualities too. But isn't there also this kind of sense of detachment? There's a sense of distance. I don't know about you, but I think it's common to have almost a witness on what's going on. So the most scary or troubling things can happen, and there's not a whole reactivity system going. There can be strong feelings that happen in the dream, but there's a real detachment from what's happening. There's a powerlessness, maybe is not quite the right word, but a loss of control around establishing the reality of what's going on. So almost the necessity of an internal surrender to this thing that's happening to you. How about if we brought that into our lives, our waking lives? That sense of surrender to what is, to the mystery of what is, even when things are quite troubling. Oh, okay, this is happening. Oh. Maezumi Roshi used to say, practice your koan even when you're sleeping. And Shishin said, because your self is no self. It can arise according to whatever the conditions are, whether you're dreaming or awake. So this self that is manifesting now for you is just as real as the self that manifests for you in dream. When your dreaming state and your awakened state are not distinguished, perfect meditation is realized. Okay. So there were a lot of qualities of the Bardo that I talked about in my last talk 2 weeks ago. And I'm not going to repeat them here, but it's helpful to understand how it's a both and experience, okay, of the Bardo. It's hot and cold. It's confused and awake. It's sane and insane. It's confused and clear at the same time. Can we open to this? Can we hold the concentration, the samadhi, power of attention, concentrated power of attention, which we need in order to hold the so-called opposites? Because the conceptualizing mind, the egoic mind, works to establish these dichotomies. Okay? It's based on, these oppositions. So we need that samadhi to cultivate that mind of meditation, to really let go of our habitual tendencies of mind. Really drop them. Enlightenment and delusion are dreams that originate from the same root. What is that one root? Even if you can answer that root is in a dream. Shishin Roshi, in commenting on, it actually wasn't this koan, it's the koan just before it, but it also applies to dreams. He said, Zen Master Bansho comments on Uman, genuine teachers of the way never limit students to the sphere of reality. In other words, don't get caught in thinking things have to be real. Don't get tied up with the real. But also don't get tied up with the unreal. Transcend them both at once. Look with your heart. Look with your imagination. And then bring your Dharma forward.